Welcome back to Behavioral Finance and FinTech. I'm Andy Kim, your Dr. Finance. And last time, we talked about media attention-driven bubble, right? Short-term overreaction. Why does that happen? Because of bounded rationality, limited attention. We are not perfect. We don't have complete information about the market because our brain is limited, right? Only a handful of stocks, you remember, out of tens of thousands of stocks being traded in the whole world. Okay? Only maybe 10 different stocks. So you pay attention to the ones that receive media spotlight. Okay? Spotlighted stocks, you pay so much attention and you overreact, right? Usually it is, individual investors doing that. CEO popping up in the media. I know that guy. I know that CEO seems sexy. Let's buy it. Overshooting and then reversing. Great chance for the hedge fund managers to short sell and make money out of it. Algorithmic trading chance. Over the last 2 decades, this has been, in my gut feeling, by the way, the most profitable trading opportunity. Okay, 땅짓고 헤엄치기 kind of. It's like just watch a TV and then short sell it. Don't buy it, man, because everybody else is buying it anyway. It's your chance to sell it. Okay, algorithmic trading. Okay, algorithmic trading. And then systematic mistake people make. Similar named companies, more attention drawing stocks, right? Similar named or similar ticker symbols, right? For example, over here, there was a news like in 2013, right? 2013. Twitter, right? Donald Trump, Twitter message, tweet. And then what is it? The Elon Musk Twitter, right? It's a social media. And then it was a private company in 2013. And then at one point, the CEO of Twitter realized that, our business is, well received, and then we should do IPO. So they announced that we are going to go do the IPO in 6 months from now, which means the stock is not being traded in the market. But all of a sudden, the investors got excited and then bought the stock named Twitter, right? Similar named ones. And then the ticker symbol happened to be TWTRQ. Awfully similar sounding name. By the way, what was Twitter? It was about the Bang & Olufsen, the speaker and then the headphone company. Twitter is like that kind of speaker company, home theater kind of things, right? And then they had gone bankrupt before this, right? Well before this event. And then the stock was traded at 1 cent per share. 1 cent. 100원짜리. 동전주, 개잡주. It's like a 법정관리주. It's like a Korean terminology, right? Troubled company. Why is that the case? Well, don't ask me. It is, but usually, that business model of Twitter was too old. Nobody wanted to buy offline based home theaters, right? They go for smaller speakers like my daughters, not the speaker, but the headphones for this kind of things, right? Instead of home theater. Who watches TV? Nobody. We watch iPhone over here. Right? Like this. So they were losing their businesses. That's why they were in deep trouble. But with this news that the Twitter is going to do IPO, somebody got excited and bought it at 15 cents per share in 10 minutes, right? Used to be 1 cent, 15 cents in 10 minutes. So somebody must have made 15 times the money. Somebody lost their money miserably afterward. Zero-sum game. Suckers are born every second, you would say. But this kind of mistakes, they systematically make, right? individual investors are highly susceptible to this kind of mistakes. And there are some trading chances if you're smart money enough. And then linguistically, this is a time your knowledge in computational linguistics pays off. We're going to learn about these, have some taste about these text mining technologies in our class. Similar spelling, similar sounding kind of things, right? You can identify those tickers. It just depends on your creativity. Just use your brain and try to find out all similar sounding company names and see if they are traded similarly. Ticker symbols or numbers or whatever it may be. And another example was about Cuba mutual fund, CUBA, Cuba. We're not talking about the country Cuba, like Castro, Fidel Castro. Hola, no way, no Jose. But the thing is, during Obama's administration, the U.S. Obama announced that they are going to restore or just improve their diplomatic relations with Cuba, the country. Havana, una na. Half of my heart is in Havana, una na. Yes. I left my heart is in Havana, una na. Yeah. That country. Okay? The thing is, as soon as the announcement went on, a sudden mutual fund whose ticker symbol turned out to be CUBA, that mutual never held any stock related to tobacco or anything related to Cuba or any industry stocks. No way. No Jose. Still, that mutual fund's price jumped up like times or something within a minute or something, and then bounced back like this. Systematic mistake people make. Oh, Cuba, I love Havana, una na. Yeah. Great chance for hedge fund managers earn money by short selling. That kind of things happen. All right. Anyway, reaction to news and no news. Those guys, the stocks in the spotlight, people tend to overreact because of bounded rationality, limited attention, all these kind of things. I'm going to ask you in your final exam. And given that these are subject to overreaction, right? Bounded rationality, first media spotlighted ones. How about the stocks in the dark? 어둠의 주식들, like the stocks in the dark, right? Well, underreaction, because we don't pay much attention to these stocks, right? So we see evidence of both overreaction and underreaction. You see it? Whether it is in the spotlight or out of the spotlight. Overreaction, underreaction. Both happens, which is, again, the evidence against market efficiency. Rational traders, utility maximizers, expected utility maximizers never make such a mistake. We are computer sharp. That's what the economists believe, but we don't see that kind of in reality. That's what behavioral finance is about. So underreaction, what do we see? Most typical evidence is something called post-earnings announcement drift. PEAD. Okay? PEAD. PEAD. I don't know how they pronounce this one. PEAD. Drift. What the hell do you mean by drift? Well, you see this one, right? Let me expand the screen a little bit and come back to you. So, overreaction versus underreaction. The stocks out of the spotlight, right? Out of the spotlight, they are more likely to be in this kind of underreaction. What do you mean? PEAD, post-earnings announcement drift. Now, here's a timeline, okay? What is finance about without timeline? Yeah, it's all about time. Anyway, and quarterly earnings announcement, 분기 실적 보고 thing, right? In the stocks being traded in the market. So this is T equals 0, announcement date of your quarterly performance. Let's say performance measure, let's say EPS, earnings per share. That is your net income divided by the number of shares outstanding. This is easy way of assessing the performance of the company. The profitability. Did they make money in the black or in the red, right? We can see this. And analysts in the market try to estimate this kind of things for the future. Okay? That's their job. Equity analyst, what do they do? A lot of you aspire to become a successful market equity analyst like this. What's your job? To assess and expect. Okay? Expect or announce the expectation, your expectation about what the EPS would be for, let's say, Samsung Electronics or Hyundai Motors or Tesla kind of things. Okay, your Tesla analyst, your job is to assess and then announce how the EPS would be like before they actually announce it. Okay, so this is actual announcement of EPS for a certain quarterly earnings announcement. Your job is to announce it before it as an equity analyst. What I'm trying to say is, for every company that is covered by an analyst, there's some consensus level of EPS, market consensus we say, or median of EPS expectation for every company. For that company, Tesla, how many different equity analysts do they? How many different analysts are covering Tesla? Hundreds of equity analysts, I guess. Okay, and then their EPS estimate or EPS expectation will be, have some distribution. Like nobody agrees with each other, right? So they will have different range of EPS. But what's the midpoint, median, right? EPS. There will be some consensus like that. Oh, the Tesla, we expect that EPS would be X dollars or Y dollars, right, for the next quarter. Okay, so that's market consensus. Let's say market consensus level is here, right? But the actual realization, actual company's announcement may be different from what the analysts have expected. Let's say this is consensus, right? Market consensus level of EPS for a single company, and then the company actually announces the realization. What's the actual EPS they really get, okay, for that quarter. It could be identical to market consensus, could be around, could be very, very different, okay? And then in terms of market efficiency, okay, in terms of price response or the response in the stock market, if the actual announcement, I'm going to denote it with a star. Actual announcement is close to this market consensus. Is it a big surprise? Not too much. Around, right? If it is close enough to market consensus, it's no surprise. But if the actual EPS announcement, EPS amount is way higher or way lower, okay? Either that, this, or that, we call it earnings surprise if it is compared to this market consensus, right? So, positive surprise, and then negative surprise. Okay, negative surprise, positive surprise. Okay, either direction it could go. It could be over here as well. All right, and how would you measure precisely about the degree of surprise? I'm not going to cover that over here. It's just the standardized, mechanical way of doing it is what the graduate school guys would do, or other classes like current topics in finance, maybe. Essentially, that is like assessing the difference between these two, right? The difference between these two, and then standardize it or divide it by the standard deviation of the distribution over here. But that's going beyond your scope, so you don't have to worry about that part. Anyway, the idea is we can classify. There will be a whole spectrum of earnings surprise. Okay, earnings season and then earnings surprise in Korean way of saying it. Earnings surprise, right? There will be a whole range of earnings surprises for thousands of different stocks that typically announce their quarterly performance like this. Now, the question is, on the day of earnings announcement like this, if there's an earnings surprise like that, okay, how should the stock price respond? Okay, how should the stock price respond is a question. Okay, I should draw another timeline hereby. Not to confuse you, I would have to erase this one. So now you have, okay, now you have the idea about the degree of earning surprise, right? Degree of earning surprise, and then let's say this is the day of the announcement, right? And then let's say the biggest earning surprise, right? Positive earning surprise happens. Okay, not the EPS in this time, not the vertical line. This time is not about EPS itself, but the price response. You know, EPS is just a counting number, whereas this time in this diagram, same timeline but a different vertical axis. This is, let's say, a excess return or cumulative abnormal return. Cumulative abnormal return of your stock. Okay, stock market return, right? So what would be like that? Well, before announcement, usually there would be not much of a stock price movement other than the expected part, normal return, capital asset pricing model, predicted returns will be there, but abnormal return was, right? Something different from the return model, it would be like zero, okay? Because there's no new information coming in. On average, it will be like this. But then once the earnings surprise happens, right? If it is a positive earnings surprise, how should the price respond? Well, the semi-strong form market efficiency says that on the day of the announcement, like this, earnings announcement, day of the earnings surprise, the price should be responding immediately in a second, millisecond, like that. And then whatever the target price level must be, whatever it may be, it should reach the target level instantaneously. And then afterwards, okay, it should be horizontally moving. Okay? Positive earnings surprise, negative earnings surprise, I would say this. Instantaneously, it will have to go like this, and then horizontal movement, day after day after day after day, month after month, like that. Okay? Instantaneous change, and then subsequently flat. Okay? As long as this is abnormal return, cumulative abnormal return. Okay? By the way, what is this abnormal return? Abnormal return is your realized return minus your expected return. Expected return, what is that? Well, let's say it is CAPM, which is your expected return over here will be RF plus your beta, your stock's beta, right? Your stock I, beta, RM minus RF. You learned it in your financial management class, right? So as long as you have your beta estimate using CAPM model, right? You have beta, RM minus RF, and RF, you plus it, and then you can construct your expected return, right? That's no surprise return. As to the extent that you have beta like this amount of return is naturally expected of your stock every day, okay, every day. But it's just an expected return that is different from your realized return, okay? And the surprise part is the difference like this, difference between these two. The surprise is what we call abnormal return, which means this one is our normal return or expected return, okay? Abnormal return. And then what do you mean by cumulative abnormal return? Well, abnormal return, you can think about this for every time interval. Let's say day by day by day by day. Every day moving forward, you can construct your expected return day by day. What's Hyundai Motors' expected return today? Well, have Hyundai Motors beta, okay? As long as you have beta of Hyundai Motors, and then as long as you have a Kospi index, right, market index return, and risk-free rate of today, right, and today's risk-free rate again, you can construct your abnormal return for Hyundai Motors today, and then realized return of Hyundai Motors. You can take this guy out and then compute the abnormal return of Hyundai Motors today, okay? Day by day by day by day, you can construct this kind of expected return and abnormal return like that, day by day by day by day. Then what is this cumulative abnormal return? Well, day by day abnormal return, just add it, accumulate it, either compound it or add it, it's your choice. But accumulating those abnormal return component, that's CAR, cumulative abnormal return. So this graph, I'm trying to draw a cumulative abnormal return after the earnings announcement, right? After the earnings announcement of your stock. And then the key message by EMH, efficient market hypothesis, is that this cumulative abnormal return will be 0, 0, 0. Right? It's flat, 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 flat. Why should it be flat? Because all the price response must have happened on the day of earnings announcement. Instantaneously. And then like this. Instantaneously. And like this. Okay? 직각 보행 like this, right? In Korean terminology, 군대 용어, like militarily. Or if you think about driving a sports car, right? Or electronic sports car or whatever, right? Speed sports car. How would you make a turn? Okay? Well, in theory, electronic world, like the movie Tron, Tron, Tron. It's like 90 degrees turn you should make based on EMH. Okay? Right? There should be no other drift or anything. But is that really the case in reality? Is our question. EMH benchmark is like this. There should be no CIR or what is it, cumulative abnormal return after day 0. Forget about this part. We are not interested in this part. Okay? On the day of the earnings announcement, yeah, there will be some earnings, the price movement associated with the day's earning, that announcement, but we are not interested in that. We are talking about +1, okay? T +1 ever since until like 90 trading days or something, okay? This part should be 0. That's EMH. Why? Because day 0, everything must have happened, okay? But is that really the case? And the researchers find that the answer is no. Why? They find this kind of something called, I should say this, drift. Drift. Just like driving Lamborghini and then make a sharp turn and then you see like, and it's just like a drifting going on, sports cars, right? And you see this kind of skid going on in your tires, right? On the road. How about downward movement? This kind of drift is found. Okay? Why? Underreaction. Underreaction. See what I'm saying? They did not fully respond in the market and they underreacted, going like this, right? And then underreacted and then later on fully reflecting. That's what's going on, right? Why is that the case? 어둠의 주식들.